What's up guys, Kavil here, and today we are going to take a look at creating soft, realistic interior lighting. We'll cover everything from sky textures, using the false color settings, to tweaking gamma and exposure for that perfect render. Please do watch the full video for understanding the workflow. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. And don't forget, there's a link in the description for 10% discount on Blender Kit. Now let's get into video. So as you can see, we have nothing in our scene here right now, and if we go to shader, and if I kept on pressing Control and scroll, you can change to world setting rather than doing this, and this sort of like works for um, all the drop down menus, if that makes sense. Okay, so let's just go in the world settings, and what we can do is we sort of want to create a realistic photorealistic render. So our best option is to get an HDRI, but the problem I have, also you can get this add-on, it's free on Blender's website. It's called easy HDRI. It's just like keep your HDR as everyone keeps their HDR in one location, so you can just sort of like give the location, and it will just just finds it and replaces it rather than doing this whole setup. Yeah, so the issue with HDRI that I have is it's almost perfect. It's perfect actually. There's no issues with it, but it doesn't always gives you the exact lighting, right? Or the exact sort of like, maybe you get lighting correct, but then there is this weird color thing also. So right now it's sort of like a pink sky, but I really look the lighting. So if I don't want this pink sky, you can do hue saturation and all, but it's not always the great option. Another thing what you can do is you can use a sun lamp. Okay, let me just go into 3D view. Let's go into camera, and we can just add our simple sun here right there, and we can just sort of like create some simple lighting over here. Okay, now you can do this as well, but then sunlight sort of like gives you this it is very good actually, but it's sort of over the years I have understood it sort of like gives me this artificial sort of like look to it. And I do use sun lamp a lot, but not always. One of the other way to get a really good lighting setup is a lot of people that don't use is the sky texture. I'll tell you why, because it is one of the good tools that Blender has. So if I come out and if I just control shift click on the node, this is something you are sort of like uh, provided with as a default. And now as you can see, it almost sort of like has uh, a little bit of light in it, but we can sort of like increase or uh, increase our increase our quality of render or quality of lighting. And for that, let me just take you through the sky texture node. And the best way of understanding the lighting in this scenario is to understand this node itself. Okay, as you can see, it is only one node, there's nothing connection going in or going out, and it has like a three type of sky types. So by default it gives you this Nishita, and I have not actually gone through this both of this because it doesn't have a lot of, it also have this vector thing. So when I go through these two things, I'll definitely make a video. For now, let's just stick with Nishita. Okay, and for this what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zero it out everything. Okay, so we should be left with sort of like a blank sky, or like a zero output node. Okay, so let's just try to understand what the node itself is. Okay, and as you can see, they are sort of like in sets. So sun size, sun intensity is sort of in a set, elevation and rotation, altitude, and then add dust and ozone. So let's just go step by step. Um, and yeah, this video is a lot is for beginners, but I think very, if professionals even don't use it, they can also sort of like find this helpful. Okay. So sun size. So sun size, what is sun size? So sun size is basically physical size of the sun, but in Blender or in any 3D, or even in if you have seen in photography or other things, you might know that, you might understood that uh, the size of this lamp or the size of the light can create that softness. So if you don't know how you can go from that harsh shadows to softer shadows, this this is the thing. And the higher the degree of this or higher the size of this lamp is, or the light is the softer shadows you get, at least as per my knowledge in 3D. That's what happens. The sun intensity is basically the power of the sun. Okay, so yeah, it says right here strength of the sun. Okay, in you can just understand it by this power of the sun. Sun elevation is basically it the name itself sort of like tells you what it is. So imagine sunset is sun elevation degree 0 degrees. Okay, and as you just scale this up, uh, or the or increase this, the position of the sun will move up in the upward direction, basically making a sunrise. Okay, sun rotation is basically the position of the sun around the world. Okay, so this is very different from the rotation the objects have. Okay, so objects just or our earth has. Okay, so the sun rotation mostly you have to you sort of have to like think is like the sun is actually moving around the earth, and this will I will the moment I show you, you will understand it. So it's a very weird, it's actually my weird way of telling you this. The altitude is basically the height from the sea level. Okay, as here also you can see it, the height from the sea level. So when does this come handy? This will come handy in if you are creating scenes. For example, like you have a building or a house on the mountains. Okay, so there is a different type of atmosphere on the hills, right? So for creating those type of atmospheres you might need this. Okay, then there is air, dust, and ozone. Okay, so these three things directly sort of like relates in creating that atmospheric light, or the atmosphere, or the combination of three of these three things will sort of like get you your perfect or your appropriate atmosphere that you are looking for. If you are looking for like simple cloud sky, air with power of one, should, as you can see, if you just hover over this also, you can see here. So 0 is nowhere, 1 is clear day atmosphere, and 2 is highly populated. So this will sort of like help you in creating very particular skies. Okay, if that makes sense. So for us, what we need to do, so I do want to create a very realistic, a soft, uh, but neutral sort of daylight lighting. Not daylight lighting, think it should it's not daylight, because I don't want to keep it like a warm render. Okay, I can do this everything on this node. Okay, so let's just go by one. Okay, so let's increase the sun size to 1 degree, and as you can see there is no change, and it's because the sun size is 1 degree, but there's no sun power to uh, to make a effect. So let's just do sun intensity 1. As you can see, there's a light over here, but not, and not anywhere. And as you can see, if you can see in the far away, there's a sun. Okay, so what we can do is we can hit one, and there's a sun. Okay, so this is our simple sun with intensity 1 and sun size 1. So what do I want to do in my scene? Let's just take at the scene. So I do want to, there's my window right here, so I do want to sort of like want my sun to or like have my sunlight come through here and sort of like hit the machine as well as the floor and create like a soft uh, like soft focus light sort of thing, and then everything else can just bounce off. I'll just remove this and I'll show you what this is, okay, afterwards. So what we need is our sun something right here so that it hits our window and on this direction or this face, I guess, so that light can come through the window and further hit our floor and the washing machine. Okay, so let's just go back into here, and now comes in the elevation and the rotation. So for this, let's just first take in the on try to understand the rotation. And rotation, I told you that I try to imagine this like sun revolving around the earth, but then I think you can sort of like, yeah, uh, uh, earth rotating around the sun, you can also uh, think of it is that way, but I don't know how to explain it, so I'm just going to show you how it's going to affect us. So if I increase our rotation, you can see the sun is sliding in this way right here, something like this. So this is why I said sun around the earth, because it's just going on like this. I know it's stupid, but I don't know a better way to explain this. Just so let's just keep it about 90 degrees, and it's just exactly facing here. And now as you can see, our our scene is sort of like uh, you know having a little bit of light in, and right now it's creating like a dark shadow over here. You might be wondering why it's happening. Well, it's because there is sun here, but our sun is below this, and not enough light is getting through. So for this, what we can do is we can elevate the sun, and you can definitely say, you can say this is like a sunrise thing. Okay, and this is one of the things I think Blender should change. Rather than elevation, you can sort of should give like a sunrise sunset thing over here, but I think this makes sense, more sense. Yeah, so anyways, so as you can see, now we have this very good sort of like, not very good as in, but at least like a proper light coming in. Okay, now let's go to our air, dust and ozone. So as we see, so zero is nowhere, ozone, clear atmosphere, city like atmosphere. So let's just say that we sort of want to create this house in sort of like very I don't want to say city, but like a town, something like this. I can just hit 0 and I can just go 0. 0.1. As you can see, there's this looks a lot like we are like stratosphere or something, like above our atmosphere. But if you look inside, uh, there you can't see that anyway, and it sort of like gives you this blue light sort of thing, but not blue light, but not warm but cool light. And we can just try to adjust a few things. I do want to add some dust. Let's just try a few options, and as you can see how dust is affecting, it sort of like makes things a bit darker and more, you can see like dust particles, like if it's making the sky more polluted. And ozone is it's it's very easy to understand. The higher the value, it's the higher the I feel like uh, more dense ozone layer, I think, I feel so. uh, so density of the ozone layer, yeah. So I think if you are using ozone, it shouldn't go over 5, I guess. Yeah. uh, but I'm not using that right now as well. uh, or I think I should. Let's just give this a bit bluish thing, something like this. Okay. And now we have our sim. So now what we have to do is, I sort of want to have my sun rays, oops, yeah, come bright, something like this. And I do want to create sort of like, so this lines I'm drawing is like the areas I want to highlight the most. Okay, from this corner to this corner. I'll show you why I want this. So what we can do is we can play with elevation and rotation. So let's just see our elevation, and we have something like this. So right now what I can do is I can just set this to 0.1, so we have like very high sharpness. Okay. And what you can do is, if you scale the sun size, the more softer your shadows get. Okay. So let's just actually set it to 0. Sun intensity to 1 is also good. And let's just try to keep it about here, and then rotate, elevate. Yeah, something like this. So as you can see, it's not exactly following these lines, but it is sort of like almost parallel to these lines, almost, not perfectly. And we can try to adjust a bit more. I think I should, yeah, something like this should work. Let me just clear these lines up. As you can see, it's looking a bit warmer at right now. And now what we can do is, we can sort of like increase our intensities. Let's just go with 5. Let's just see how it is, or we can stuck with 1. And now we have this harsh lighting coming in, and everything looks like blown out, and it is sort of like blown out. If you go to view transform and go in false color, everything is like just red. So this is like your highlights are just clipped. And what you can do for to bring these highlights back, or to make the lighting more softer, you can increase the sun size. And what we can do is, we can just try to scale it up, or you can keep this on, sorry, not raw, false color, and try to just scale it till it turns sort of like orangish. Okay, there's only this red part. And what I typically do is, I sort of like keep this sun size on 50%, which sort of like gives me the proper this and sorry, the proper lighting. You can definitely increase. Let's just go with 70, how it looks. uh, the moment I have cleared all the highlights, or the red parts, this oranges is also good. You have to account this in blue. So let me just explain you what false color basically is. So anything from, I feel, green to orange is a good light. Okay, this blue light is basically the darker areas, and if you get like a dark blue color, that is like pitch black sort of thing. Okay, as you can see here, this means like you have like no details in the shadows left. Okay, if that makes sense. Also with the uh, red thing is highlights or the overexposed part of your renders. Okay, and now if I change my false color to HUX, you can see it's, let me just let's just this render out. I am using a very slow GPU, so yeah, something like this. Okay, so as you can see in this uh, close up, just look at the wait, just look at this area, how soft, how smooth, and how realistic the lighting looks. It is really one of my favorite ways to render this. And I'm using a 1660 GPU. This is 80 samples, by the way. Okay, it's not even like rendered image. Okay, so please do use this technique, guys. So other than that, let's just focus on, so we are sort of like set with this settings here. I don't want to change anything right here, and you can sort of like play with this node, experiment with these things, and it's a pretty good, amazing tool, uh, amazing world node setting. And now let's come to our second issue, is that we are sort of like losing our what you can say it, sort of like losing our a lot of light light properties, if that makes sense, or the benefits of lighting in this setup. So as you can see that it has a very good light over here. Oops. Perfect smooth shadows over here. This looks good, but then there is this whole area. Okay, this whole area sort of like looks, because it makes sense, right? There is only one light coming through here, and there is nothing over here, and it sort of like creates this uh it's a good contrast, but it sort of like creates very unnatural sort of like look. Or even if it's not unnatural, it's almost too dark for this. Okay, and now you might think like, okay, I think I need a area light, and we can uh, sort of like create a proper thing with it. But then when you use area light, and and it almost like looks artificial, or you have to sort of like set the settings exactly in a way so that it doesn't look artificial. So instead of that, what you can do is you can just take a simple plane and move it somewhere around here. So what does this do, or the idea behind this is, you have your light coming through here, right? It hits the floor, it hits the wall, it hits this thing, okay, this plane, and then it hits back, and all the things that are in shadow over here should get lit. And if our theory is correct, we should have some sort of, or at least, so as you can see, it's almost like, see how bright our scene is. Okay, and I can prove you that, but my PC is a little slow. But you see this illuminated over here. If I turn this off, oops, not the walls, not the floor. Where is my, yeah, okay, reflector, I have named it. So if I turned it off, let me just isolate this part as well. So it's off and it's off and on. So there are a lot of techniques like this you can use, right? And sort of like, um, rather than using 1,000 lights, you can you can use 1,000 lights, but then getting away with a simple white plane as a reflector. So people who are coming from photography, they know these things, and you can always sort of like, learn these techniques from a photographer or like a photographic video, and you can bring these techniques into 3D and it will work. Not all of it, but it will. So this is mostly done. The only issue I have with this is, oops, not this, is this, okay, so this is also solved, but then I also want to sort of like give this a sort of like contrast but like a balanced look. And for that, what you can do is, you can see there is a lot of details sort of like missing over here. And for this, what I want to do is, let me just bring this up and we can go into, yeah, so we can see our inside our color management there are these two things called exposure and depth. So exposure is basically the overall light in your uh, overall light in your scene, and gamma basically means, I feel it almost like sort of like brings your darkest or your shadows up, if that makes sense. Yeah, so it's sort of like says like amount of gamma modification applied to the, okay, but it always sort of like, if you see me making a change, they will always change the brightness of the shadow. So what I mostly do is, I sort of like try to make this the darker areas sort of like a little light, so uh, the details are visible. So keep your eyes up here, okay? So now you cannot see these patterns, right? So what I will do is sort of like slightly increase this, something like this, so that I can see these patterns a little bit, and then we can just turn down the overall exposure, something like this, and that's it. So now we have officially or properly retained all of our sort of like uh, all of our uh, data or details in this. And let me just keep this one so I get a more blue light thing. Yeah, and as you can see, we are sort of like done with the render we were looking for, or type of the scene we wanted to create. I hope this wasn't very fast tutorial, and we can also sort of like, this is a bit, I feel a bit too intense. We can always keep this down 0.5. Yeah, and one more tip I do want to give you guys is, always render images in Blender, uh, uh, not thinking of them as like final renders. Okay, you take this render out, then you go into Photoshop and then you make more final changes. You can add noise and other details, and the best way to tell you is, hold on a second, I'll show you my Photoshop and clean one. Okay, so these are my renders, and this is the render I did. As you can see, it's more softer or more blue light, and you can see it has sort of like kept this details very nicely, very cleanly. As you can see, it sort of have this very beautiful highlights, very nice texture to it. uh, this is also from Blender Kit. And what I've now, this looks very good, but it sort of looks like unrealistic to me. So what I've done is I've went into Photoshop, made a few changes, and uh, this is what we have come with. So as you can see, I have sort of like changed the light a bit. It's more cooler. I've added this very slight noise to it, and if you want, please do comment down below. I will give you a Photoshop tutorial. It's very easy. uh, just some simple smart filter and other exposure and gamma settings, some very easy sort of things. Like, it's not like hour 2 hour thing, 10-15 minutes of changes, but it does make a difference. Like, if I open my PureRef, and oops let's just bring this in, and let's just bring this in. Yeah, and as you see them, so let's just, yeah, if you see this, you can see this is good, but it looks sort of like boring, nothing is happening, while this, it's like the you have sort of like brought out the details, or the lighting is exactly focused on. Let me just get this vertical. Why it's not Control Shift? What? Oh, yeah, yeah. Now you can see. So this one is non-edited from Blender, and this one is edited. So as you can see, I've sort of like played with the temperature with a lot of details. Here we could see that it sort of like looks very flat, but here we have successfully uh, brought out the details in it. Okay, and the noise, I'm still learning about noise, how to use it properly, but it sort of like gives you this realistic photo type of look. So it's also our tile looks very good in this. So please use these techniques. I hope I am not bored you, or my words have not gone up your head. If you have any issues with this, please do comment down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.